Who has spent the most money in this game? Now, a lot of people can take a brief glance at the rankings and say, oh, yeah, Don AA, obviously. Look at him. He's at 40 billion might. At his height, he was at what, 41 billion might? No one's even come close. It's clearly Don. I mean, you glance at this dude, look at him. He's got all the 11Ks. He's got the max castle stars, and he's got, oh my gosh, the new champ gear, all that. Very clear choice. This guy spent the most money. Boom, done and done. But I would argue otherwise. There are a few contenders to bring into this, and I'm going to start with our old glory boy, Bryn Chong. Now, Bryn Chong is a very out of date account, but in terms of money spent, because we are going only on money spent, not how well the account's built, that does count for something. Because back in the day, packs were a lot smaller. When the Be a Champion pack first came out, you only got 100 of the champion chests and then 15 crimson mains, which are the only material that you need to discuss in something like this because the other ones you'll have an abundance of. So, with that in mind, getting champ gear up to gold was a lot more difficult. These days you have mythic gear. This account no longer belongs to Bryn Chong, as far as I know. And when Bryn got rid of the account through whatever method they did, this account halted on spending. It reached a complete standstill. That was it. And it was very shortly after the 11K Heroes came out that Bryn Chong stopped spending entirely. I'm actually unsure if Bryn Chong has all three, but for the sake of this, we're going to assume that they do. I know that they have at least two of them. I don't know if they have the ranged attack one. But we're going to assume that they do because with the amount that's spent for this, that's very negligible. This account easily had $1 million put into it. Just no exaggeration. At the drop rates and everything that they had back in the day, I've seen plenty of videos. They bought through gear packs incredibly often, comparable to the amount of packs that Don AA had to get in order to get all the gear that he has. That being said, there is one real defining factor here. Spending stopped before the third champion set came out for this account, and that does make a good deal of difference. In addition to that, a lot of castles are missed out on. You see 26 castle stars. All the castles that they have are probably at or close to maxed out. They honestly probably didn't max out their base castle because, I mean, it's a free-to-play castle, and this account was built to show off. They built it to be the first one to reach 10 billion might. End of story. So this right here has 5 castles maxed out, and then one with 1 star. And obviously there are a lot more castles than that these days. You go ahead and take a look right here. We're about to have another one, but you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And then the base one for 20, 5 stars apiece, equaling the typical 100 stars that you could get. So, with all that in mind, wow, that means that Bryn Chong really pales in that factor, and that does count for a fair amount as well. Because the more these castles come out, the harder they are to get maxed out. Those scrolls aren't cheap by any means. In addition to that, there's something I want to take a look at because Bryn Chong does outclass Don in kills by a fair amount. But let's take a look at Don's might destroyed 13 bill, and then right there, troops lost 93.9 million, and then Bryn Chong right here, might destroyed 55 billion, comparable proportionally. And then troops lost 159 million. So we go ahead and whip out that calculator right there. We're just going to round everything down just to be safe. So we've got 153 million minus 93 million. That leaves to 60 million might destroy difference. Hold on. Add 6 more. Sorry. Got to be fair. So 66 million troop loss difference. Now, players like this throw away T4 like crazy. So for the sake of simplicity, what we're going to do here is assume that every single troop that's been lost is T4. Bryn Chong, Don AA, and the other players we're going to look at came out of the gate swinging. They immediately rushed themselves to T4, and from basically the start of the days that they started fighting, they were using T4. So, although there are a few layers peppered into here and everything like that, we're going to go ahead and dumb it down because proportionally, they probably all lost the same amount of troops that aren't T4. So, we're just going to say that all of them were T4 to not have to worry about all that jazz. So we're going to say that all of these troops that were lost were T4, which are 36 might apiece, which accounts for 2.3 billion might as well for Bryn Chong. So that would place Bryn Chong at 12 billion might if you don't want to go ahead and tack more onto Don AA, which would just put him farther up again. That is eliminating out the difference between the two and then saying that in terms of how close he was, Bryn Chong would have had about 12 million might worth of troops instead of the, 10 billion that he's got right now. Maybe 9 billion. I don't know how much research is worth. But speaking of that, I guarantee Bryn Chong does not have all the familiars or anything like that. You could see right here, this account has never launched a familiar attack. Now, I feel like if they had those familiars maxed out, they'd be doing it. And I'm honestly surprised that they haven't launched a single one. Why wouldn't you? Honestly, if you're able to. This account, again, 17 familiar attacks on him. That means that he's not making enough people mad to get attacked by that anymore. So he's fairly docile. This account hasn't really done much at all since, the spending stopped. So overall, we're going to have to face the facts and say that Bryn Chong definitely did not pass up Don AA. Probably not even close, honestly. I just wanted to get that out of the way before we go ahead and take a proper look at Don AA and then another one as well. So Don AA here has all 311k heroes, has all 3 sets of the champ gear, all in Mythic, and, all that jazz too. The one thing is that the troops lost is not high at all, not even breaking 100 million, which is the smallest that we're going to look at by a fair margin. They've launched 26 familiar attacks. I have no doubt he's got all the research and everything like that maxed out. Getting everything to Mythic is definitely not an easy task either. Don has spent a lot of money, and if you're glancing at who's spent the most, he is an easy one to go ahead and take a look at. He's a heavy spender. And also the newest one on this list. He has not been playing for very long at all, less than a year, as far as I know. I remember him popping up back in the day, just a while back, a few months ago, and he definitely rushed out the stuff fast, which means that he didn't wait for affordable packs or anything like that. He just bought, and got it all going, and then rushed all that might out at once, and then since then has been maintaining that rough might, and they probably have max gems on hand and everything like that, and hey, that's all well and good. They've given a few billion of each resource, but that is it. So I'm not sure if they've bought a lot of those like resource ready packs or anything like that, like a lot of the bigger players do, so that they don't have to worry about that, or if they are basically just trying to sustain themselves or running off the bank that they have. That amount of money can make a bit of a difference. Going back to Bryn Chong, let's see what the stats are, because I'm not honestly sure. You can see right there, all but two of the stats are above 30 billion, especially with the gold cent. 37 billion gold cent. That is a fair amount of gold that he parted with, especially compared to Don. But Don has definitely spent a lot of money. But has he spent the most? I argue no. So we've got two people to glance at here that I believe could have possibly spent more than Don. We're going to start with the lesser one. We're going to start with Mr. KDA, Cash Cash, our current Emperor and Baron. Now, this player right here has max castle stars, everything across the board, basically the same. They've sent a few more, like a very minimal amount more of familiar attacks and everything like that. But where the difference is the troops lost 869 million. Now let's go back to Don over here. 869 million to Don's 93 million. So let's go ahead and take a look at the difference there. Where are you at? There you are. Run up the calculator. 869 million. That's what we're going to be doing right here. I do not see. There we go. C. It literally is the C button. And that's, wow. Okay, sorry guys. 93. Right there. That's a 776 million troop difference. Again, all T4. So let's take a look right here. That accounts for 27.9 billion might worth of troops. Now, why does this matter? This matters because Don AA may have 40 billion might on hand, and that's all well and good and everything like that. And he'd have a bit more if I calculated in this 93.9 million troops lost. But I'm subtracting that from the other troop totals in comparison. That way I don't have to do that and say that every single time. Now, Cash Cash here is only 12 billion might, but they've done a lot more fighting, and they've lost a lot more of their troops in the process, and both of them spent money to get those troops rushed out. Whether or not those troops are alive is irrelevant in terms of how much money they spent to get those troops to put them to wherever they happen to be at these days. So we've got 12.4 billion might right here. No, that's not. That is, there we go. Which would put him up to 40,336,000,000 might had he not been fighting at all, which would be, wow, not even 100 million might more than good old Don AA. 40,265, but still just slightly over. Now, do I think that this could possibly be a case that Cash Cash has spent more than Don AA? I do believe so. For one, he's also got some Emperor gear that he has upgraded to Mythic. That's not going to account for a lot more, but it is certainly a little bit. Two, I don't remember the second point that I was going to... Oh, yes. He's given a lot more resources. Again, he's been playing this game for a good deal longer. He's probably bought resource packs or come across resources for whatever reason, spent gems to get them. Who knows?